All right. Rock and roll. Welcome to the Scorched Earth Political Podcast. For Monday, I'm your host, John. And all you little rascals, I hope you were good boys and girls this weekend, because, hey, we're on to another week. We had a whole weekend to think about the whole tariffs, and we're going to do something a little different today. We're going to make this a little more interactive than we typically are. But first of all, what I need you to do is take that beautiful finger or that beautiful thumb and hit the like and subscribe button. Okay. We're building some momentum here. We need you to come along. Okay. All right. Like Don Cheadle said in Ocean's 11, hold on to your knickers. Okay. But first, and this is something I like to do. I like to bring a little story in before I start, a little personal story before I start into the world of Trump, the draconian and apocalyptic world that we seem to live in. And there is nobody in this world. Well, let's start back here. I'm going a little too fast. Okay, hey, I'm not just good looking. I already got a brain. Okay, don't get angry at me. So, have you ever had a friend or a relative or in a relationship where you kind of had to do an intervention? Typically you got to do it for things that are very destructive. Uh, alcohol, drugs, gambling, maybe even shopping. You got to do, I don't really know how you would do the shopping intervention, maybe just delete an app or, try and X out account, but people are way too smart to fall for that one. Sorry, John, not everybody's as stupid as you. Yeah, you got me there. Literally, if I took off my Amazon app, I don't know if I'd be able to order. Let me think about that. And usually the people that are in the most need of help don't know they need it. They're actually highly functioning people, but they don't seem to have an understanding of how far the sickness has went. Yeah. And I need to do an intervention. I do. And it's one of truly my dearest friends. And I've known her for a long time. And I don't even know how to articulate the words to tell her she just went batshit crazy. I don't even know. I don't even know what that is. So as I've talked about on this podcast, we have super producer Stacy, and she is eminently talented. Okay. She's forgotten more about the internet than I'll ever know. Right. And she's guided me, mentored me, whatever, and I am internally in her debt. But Stacy has a sickness. Yeah. And no, it's not anything like alcohol or drugs or things like that. No, but sickness is still sickness. No, I need to pull an animal intervention on Stacy. Yeah, I do. Seems like Stacy has started to befriend woodland creatures. Okay. I'm happy on my shorts when I get 1,000. She does a squirrel video where she feeds a squirrel and literally she gets thousands of views. Like, okay, hey man, I dig it. I love it. I love what that is, right? But we were having a conversation because I need to get information. I need to figure out what I'm doing. I needed to learn how to turn on my phone, right? And she feeds this squirrel. She's named the squirrel. Like, let me tell you something. Let me give you a little info. When you start naming woodland creatures, that is the first red flag that you need an intervention, an animal intervention. Okay? Anybody out there, you probably don't even understand you think I'm making this up. Okay? Nobody cooler, nobody smarter, nobody sweeter. And maybe that in lies the rub, right? So she names this woodland squirrel Blackie. Okay. She feeds Blackie. And she was telling me on her daily walk that she didn't have any little grubs or nuts or morsels. I don't know. I'm sure they're all organic because we don't want Blackie to get fat or have a high cholesterol count. This just in, Stacy. It's a wild animal. Okay. It probably eats trash, but shh, don't tell her that. And So she was coming back and she said, I didn't have any food to give Blackie. So I had to make like a circle, like a question mark, right? Because I didn't want Blackie to see me from the tree and then come up and I wouldn't have any food for Blackie and Blackie would be crushed. All right. All right. At that point, I said, oh, we got a problem here. We got a real problem. But I'm just saying, okay, maybe it's just a moment. Maybe it's just a thing that's coming and going. Then she texted me yesterday. Yeah. And she was driving, she said. And she was going down a street, and in her rearview mirror, she saw a squirrel behind her go into the street. This just in, Stacy. Squirrels go into the streets. They don't understand traffic laws and they don't understand crosswalks. They're squirrels. They're animals. They aren't our friends. They don't abide by our laws. Maybe they're a descendant of Trump. I don't know. No, they're actually better than Trump. I wouldn't put them in that category. So she says, I had to kind of stop and start honking the horn so everybody on the road would slow down so they wouldn't hit the squirrel. Yeah, I just said that. She was in front of the squirrel. She honked the car so all the traffic would slow down and not hurt the squirrel. I have a funny feeling that one of these podcasts coming up, we're going to have a squirrel funeral. And I don't even know how. And you know what? Actually, it'll probably be the most views we ever get. So, like I said, we're taking no prisoners, telling no lies. Welcome to the podcast. Friend and foe alike are welcome, sinner and saint too. And we're going to do something a little different today. I'm going to try and be a little more interactive. I'm not going to give you all the stats and stuff. Of course, when somebody tells you they're not going to give you the stats, that means a lot of stats are coming. But I want you, as a thoughtful human being, to put yourself in the role of you own a business in this political climate. Okay? Now, why do we talk about the manufacturing base has left America, right? We have supposedly what we do. Let's be honest about what we're talking about here. That there is a lot of abandoned factories. There's a lot of manufacturing went overseas, and basically the reason is because their labor is much cheaper. I remember a story. I believe it was the president of Toro, and he went into Walmart back in, I don't know, around the turn of the century, and he said, Walmart basically said, shut down all your U.S. manufacturing. We will set you up in China or Korea or Vietnam, and you'll be able to make it for 1/5 the cost that you could here, and then we'll just import it back. And God bless him. He said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to my workers. Kudos to you, sir. I wish there was more people of stout reputation. But then at the end of the day, people don't start buying your product because when they go in and they see the Toro mower at $300 and they see some other mower at 200, you understand how the world works, right? I mean, there's a reason that the Dollar Tree exists, right? It's just what it is, right? So they went across the sea because there was quote unquote free trade, and they built factories, assembly lines, things like that in a place with cheaper labor. Okay. Now Trump's premise is if theirs is 25% and we put a 25% tax tariff on their goods, they'll be equal or they'll cost a little more. That will give them the incentive to come back to America. Now, I want everything I'm saying to be directed to you as a business owner. You're the business owner. You are the business owner of Widgets Incorporated, right? Whatever it is, right? Whatever that all is. So now we're talking about an environment where Trump has been attacking Canada and Mexico for their free trade deals, but he fails to remind us that he's the one who negotiated them in 2017, right? Hey, that was yesterday. Let's worry about what today is, right? So I'm going to go through a little of the tariffs that he has and what he has done that just since he got into office. what he has threatened and what he's done. Now it's going to be a little list here. I told you I wasn't going to give you any statistics. All right, I July. Okay, on January 20th, in his inauguration speech, he threatened tariffs. That was the first shot over the bow. Okay, let's forget the political campaign. Now he has power. He can actually do these things with executive orders or legislative remedies, whatever it is, right? January 26th, he announced that he's going to put 25% tariff on all Canadian, Colombian imports because they wouldn't let our deportation planes land there. A day or two later, it was called off. Okay. February 1st, he announced a 10% tariff on Mexico, Canada, and China. February 3rd, he gave it a 30-day pause. So at this point, he's threatened it a couple times. He hasn't done anything. February 10th, he announced there's going to be a steel and aluminum tariff of 25%. February 13, he announces the concept of reciprocal tariffs. Nothing is actually done yet. February 25th, he signs an executive order instructing the Commerce Department to consider a tariff on copper. Okay, fair enough. March 1st, he does the same thing for lumber and timber. I don't really know what the difference is between timber and lumber, but let's just go with it. We're on the Scorched Earth Political Podcast. And like I told you, hit that like and subscribe button, okay? Now remember, you're the business owner here. You're the person, right? Now, March 4th, Trump puts a 25% tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico. Now he's upping it from the 10% that he said on February 1st. Now, that same day, China put a 2 times that tariff on the US to 20%, right? They retaliated. Okay, I understand it. Now we're at 20%, they're at 20%. It's a pissing match, right? John, could you please get there? Because I'm ready to turn you off. Just give me a second. Just give me a second, okay? Hey, do it for Blackie. Do it for Blackie, okay? March 5th, Trump announces that his tariffs on China and Mexico, he's going to give a 30-day exemption. Pause, as you will. March 6th, he issues a wider extension than the previous day. So now they even have a little more time. March 10th, Chinese tariffs on U.S. goods of 15% takes effect. This is what China did to us. March 12th, tariffs on steel and aluminum from the United States of 25% take effect. The EU retaliates that same day to U.S. industrial and farm products, okay? The 13th, Trump threatens a 200% tariff on EU wine and spirits. And on the 24th, he says 25% on all imports from any country that buys oil from Venezuela. Okay, I'm getting somewhere. I really am. Just another second here. The 26th, 25% tariffs on auto parts. That's what he threatened. He didn't sign the order. April 2nd, the Rose Garden, the Liberation Day last week, which crashed the markets. That's when we came to reciprocal tariffs. Now, the question I'm going to ask you, and I really want you to seriously think about this is why we're going to be different here. That's why in 2 years we're going to be the biggest podcast in the world. Is if you're a business owner and he puts tariffs on, how long do you think he's going to keep them? Are you literally going to allocate millions of dollars and put a factory in the United States when he could change his mind in 6 months? You know, there's an election in, 19 months. What if in 4 years we get a new president? Hopes and prayers, right? Well, we will get a new president. I take that back, right? There is going to be somebody different. So it takes 2 to 4 years to build a factory here, right? You just don't set up shop. This is an Ocean's 11, right? So if you're the business owner and he says, okay, I got 25% tariffs, are you going to allocate $5 million to build a factory here? And then he's going to take off, and then maybe Congress revokes the tariffs. Then what happens? Exact same situation we're in now, where we have deserted factories because it's cheaper to build over in other countries, or the labor base is cheaper. Look, this is exactly what our greatest president, Barack Obama, understood. Look, we want things at a cheaper rate. Okay. We are moving out of the manufacturing base. We are moving into the green technological base. That's why we have the greatest economy in the world, because we're doing things that we don't have to compete with. We're that far ahead of them. And honestly, you bring the industrial, you bring the manufacturing base back, who's going to man it? We're deporting all those people. I mean, it's a serious question. So really, if you could in the comments section, and I know this is a little different, but I really sincerely mean it. What would you forget what I say or what anybody on a podcast says? What would you do if you're the business owner? Would you take 5, 10, $15 million and build a factory here when you don't know if you're going to be able to staff it in 2 years or 3 years? I mean, look, you're running a company because you're smart. And I know I have the smartest listeners in the world, right? I mean, it just doesn't make sense on any level. And therein lies the flaw. He thinks that the tariff he puts in today will stay there forever. But as we did when I went through the long and longer list, he's retracted tariffs, you know? Now, I understand TSMC says I'm going to put 10 billion into the US. They haven't broken ground. They haven't bought property. They understand how to placate the man. It's just a game. It's just a game. And that's a really, really important thing for us all to understand. If you're the business owner, would you do it? And I can tell you right now, there's no effing way. And if you did decide to do it, the board of directors, which is 12 or 15 people who actually make decisions involving the country, they're going to do an intervention, and it's going to be get the F out of our company. Because nobody in this, you can give me the hardcorest MAGA person. Let them try and tell you what's going to happen in 3 months. Do you really think Trump understood how bad the markets were going to crash this week? They're saying they understood it. That's bullshit. It's straight bullshit. I'll tell you why. Because if they thought it was going to crash this bad, they would have had the press conference on Friday evening. They wouldn't have had it on Wednesday so the market could crash on Thursday and Friday, and then over the weekend it crashed even more. We're starting out Monday, and it's a bloodbath on Wall Street and for our 401ks and everything else. They didn't understand that, no matter what they say. I mean, I see everybody talking about on podcast. Well, that's why they had the ceremony after the markets closed. No, they didn't get it. They thought there would be a little disruption. They had no clue what was coming. They didn't know $6 trillion in market capital was going to get wiped out in 2 days. And we're looking at another 2 trillion with a T is going to get wiped out today. If you're the business owner, what would you do? You're smart. Would you do it? No. You may tell them you're going to do it. You know, it's exactly like going out with somebody, okay? And you got a date. You're talking to them all week and everything's cool. You got a date Saturday night. Then at 12 o'clock, they say, "Hey, I can't make it." They send you a text. "I can't make it, sorry, whatever." And you go, "Okay, I'll give you a pass." And then you go for the next weekend. And they do the exact same thing. How many times are you going to put up with it? How many times are you going to believe this person's really going to come through? I mean, at some level, you're not. At some point, you're just going to call bullshit. Okay? That's what business is doing to Trump. They know it's all nonsense. It's all smoke and mirrors. Because even if they commit to coming back, they don't know how long the tariffs are going to last. I mean, he's paused it. Think about the TikTok ban. Okay? I don't even know how he was able to extend that, but he just extended it for another 75 days. Like, okay, there's no deadline. I'm really selling. Like, you couldn't find a buyer for it? Like, Christ's sake, come on, man. Really? All right. That's what I have to say. And, I want you to, as you're going about your day, if you even made it to the end of this podcast, think about that. Think about Blackie. Think about how am I going to do this animal intervention with super producer Stacy? I just don't even know what I'm going to do. But really, just think what business would do. Nobody would do it. It's just the way it is. You may tell somebody you're going to do it, kind of like the dating scene, but you're not going to come through. No way. All right. So don't be sad. We're at the end of our little podcast today. Don't be sad because it's over. Be happy because we're in this together. And I will say this for all the people who went to rallies this weekend, I love you. I went to the rally. It's just beautiful. I love seeing Americans stand up for this stuff. This is our fight. Be happy because we are in this together. And we're all doing it out of love and our dedication to democracy. I love y'all. I need you. We need each other. And we're going to win this fight because we're on the side of right. We're on the side of morality. And we're definitely on the side of democracy. All right. That's it for today. And I'll see you soon.